Welcome back to the Comp Closet podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Sarah Moore, and today I am thrilled to have Amanda Jane with us. Amanda is not only the 2024 NBA Bikini Pro Champion, but also a transformation specialist and opposing coach. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to finally be on here. I watch everyone else be on here and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so honored to come on. So thank you for asking me to come in.
No worries. I'm super excited to hear more about your journey. So let's go back to the beginning. Thinking back, what were the pivotal moments that led you to taking fitness seriously and then also wanting to step on stage?
I think it would kind of come back to my younger years. I was heavily into competitive sport, netball, football. So I was always into the fitness type of world and kind of always just did it for more athletic purposes, not so much aesthetic purposes. And then when I got really badly injured, I ruptured my ACL and tore my meniscus in footy. It kind of forced me to obviously go down the rehab route. And then I got really into lifting and I was like, oh, like this is really cool. I figured it's a much safer avenue than, playing sport, especially as you get older. And then I started to see all these changes in my physique. And I was like, wow, like I really like this. And seeing other people like compete and bodybuilding was something that always kind of fascinated me, especially like watching, your Arnold Schwarzenegger and just like the whole grind mentality around bodybuilding. I'd say the pivotal moment was really having that time in my life that felt really shit, thinking my sporting type era was over. But then it actually led to something else that was quite beautiful and a new passion for something else that was a lot safer in some sense. And from there, I just got really heavily into more lifting to build muscle and the mentality of bodybuilding. It just kind of resonated with me so much. And I I've had numerous coaches throughout my journey, and I just found that I found something that I thought I was really good at, and that like my mindset and mentality could really lead to. So I think it was just, having what happened, that shift, that was probably like the biggest thing where I started to take this really seriously and found a really deep passion for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you turn something negative like an injury into something so positive and it's the start of this incredible journey. So, what were some of the biggest struggles that you had in the early days when you did start making that transition to bodybuilding?
Some of the struggles I think were more injuries actually to kind of further come with that. So I had the injury that happened and I didn't get the surgery straight away. It actually happened a few years later, and that was happening during my lifting career. So I was on the waiting list, which, as we know, can take some time. And I was like building muscle, feeling good, and then I got the call. They're like, you're ready to come in for your surgery now. I was like, oh, like, okay. So I went and had the surgery. It was a 6-week recovery. I couldn't work. I was still a PT back then and couldn't do that. So it was like starting from scratch again, having to build the legs back up. So I got my legs to a really good spot again. And I was actually going to go and compete in 2020 and do ICN back then. So I was like 20 years old or maybe 21. And then COVID happened. A lot of competitors didn't get to compete that year. So coming out of that was actually quite hard because I still got somewhat relatively lean. That was the leanest I'd ever gotten to that early into my bodybuilding career. And then obviously the world shut down. I'm sure many people went to quite a depressive state. And then not only did we go into lockdown, have that state, I ended up breaking my foot during lockdown. And that was way worse than the knee reco in the sense of the healing period. I was like, give me my knee reco injury any day over this. It took 4.5 months for my foot to heal. I didn't walk. I didn't train legs for 4.5 months whilst the world was shut down. And it was so hard because I was like, great, this is a huge setback from my goal of wanting to step on stage. And I was like, shit, man, like this is going to set me back so far. So that was probably, if not one of the biggest struggles I faced. But once I got out of the cast and I got moving again, I did also then start to suffer with a few back injuries due to the imbalance of having that injury with the foot and then getting back into training. So I was navigating that too with chronic back pain. But sure enough, 18 months later, after being out of the cast, I stepped on stage for the very first time, making my back then WBFF debut. And we didn't do too bad. I definitely actually had an imbalance though. I remember looking at my rear shot and you'd actually see one glute was bigger than the other, but we still did okay. We placed top 5. But that was tough because ideally I wanted to be on stage earlier, but also looking back now in hindsight, I don't regret anything that happened. Like, I'm so glad that, ICN wasn't my first time and that I actually took longer and my debut was UBFF. I think, I'm glad that actually was my journey in a weird way. It's like it was meant to happen, and getting past that foot injury, not training legs 4.5 months, it was one thing that almost broke me. I was really mentally not okay. But then getting across that and then stepping on that stage 18 months later, getting my legs to the best I possibly could in that time, that was more fulfilling than getting up there not having gone through that.
Yeah, what an incredible turnaround. So just thinking back to those 4.5 months when you couldn't train, you were in lockdown, it must have been really hard mentally. Was there anything that you remember that actually really helped, with your mental health or getting past that really tough spot?
I think not giving up on the goal. I think making the best out of my situation that I could. I feel most people, if they had experienced that, they would have just thrown in the towel like, I'm not training, everything's shut, I'm depressed, I've broken my foot, I'm gaining back this weight that I spent so long trying to cut down, and just get yourself into a bit of a rut. And I definitely mentally was in a rut, but one thing I didn't stop was stop showing up. I still trained almost every day because I am fortunate enough I have a home gym. I still trained through it all, and it was more for the sanity sort of thing. So I remember, it's actually hilarious, but I think it's actually done me wonders looking back now. I was training my upper body 6 days a week. I was doing 2 shoulder days, 2 chest and tri days, 2 back and bis. I was like, I just need to train. So my upper body got fucking pretty jacked compared to my legs. And I think that's why I remember even this past season, all the judges like, your delts are perfect, your delts are perfect, perfect delts. So I was like, I feel like having that time where all I could train was my upper body just set me up for the perfect bikini upper body structure. So yeah, I feel like just not actually giving in. And I was leaning on those closest to me, one being my partner. And I remember having moments where I was sitting on the gym floor just crying because I was like, I felt like it was never going to get better. I couldn't see the end light. I was like, has my doctor fucked me over here? And I was meant to have surgery the whole time. Is that what's taking so long? Like, there was so much uncertainty and so much anxiety surrounding it. But eventually, yeah, we got through it. And I think having so many moments like that, the knee reco, the broken foot, you just look back and it's like a drop in the ocean. But in that moment, it felt like everything. So I think my thing is, when you are faced in those tough times, do what you can. Like, don't let it stop you from you can still dance. I've had so many injuries, you can always dance around injuries. Like, don't let that be the reason, your excuse why you can't do, okay, but I can still show up here. So I think that is the biggest thing. And that helped me mentally. If I had stopped, I can only imagine how much more shitter I would have felt.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much you can do around nutrition and things as well. Like, even if you can't train a specific body part, you can still, like you did, train the rest of your body and make sure your nutrition is on point and all of those things as well. So tell me about your competing journey. What shows have you done since that first show, and what are the key highlights?
So since that show, I took 2 years off and I wrapped up my most recent season being season C last year. I went into 3 different federations, 5 different shows, and I had IFBB Big States as my first one, which was really cool. I was really excited to do IFBB. It's like you see some of the best physiques compete with IFBB. And I placed 3rd in true novice and third in my open class. And then a few weeks following after that, we had the IFBB National, so where girls all around Australia came. And I also walked away with third place in true novice and novice. So I was really happy to go in and just even walk away with some silverware. And that I had no expectations going into that. So it was a really, really fun show and great vibe. And then I had NBA, where I had Vic States first. I placed first in all my classes and took out the overall. And that was definitely like one of the key highlights. Like I went into that show with expectations and pressure purely because it was a even playing field, natural federation. I was like, okay, you've been training for 7 years, you better pull through here. So that was incredible. And then a few, I think it was 6 weeks after that, we had the NBA Nationals, and that was in Brisbane. And I was really excited for this. I'd never been to Brisbane either, and just competing in Brizzy was such a cool vibe. And that, it's so funny. I'm even about to say this because I'm just texting my partner this morning. He sent me a photo, and it was a selfie of us on South Bank on the beach after this show. And he's like, remember when you said this was the best day of your life? And I was like, yeah. I remember in that moment, I was like, this is the best day of my life, because I had just won my pro card, and this obviously being a pro show, I then was able to go into the pro lineup, which I was lucky enough to walk away with the pro champion. That was, I remember just as when they announced me as the pro, so in that first part of the day, my lip was trembling. I was looking at the floor, and I in myself, I'm like, I think I know I got this because I'd won all my classes leading up to that. And I was like, the overall, I was like, I've got this. But then there's always that doubt. It's like, but what if it isn't? And then how are you going to feel? But when they announced it, it's like everything that I felt, like all the stress, anxiety leading up to it just dropped. It's like, you did it. It's done. Like, it's okay. So that was like in that actual moment, absolute key, like highlight. And then following with the pro lineup, I was like, I really don't know what's going to happen here. These girls are experienced, let's see how we go. And they really drag out when they announced the winner for this one. They announced all the top five, and then it was down to 1 and 2. And they like, Amanda and Mia, please step forward. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening right now? And they're just dragging it out. And they're like, well, because she was the prior pro champion. I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And yeah, I was just like, I just couldn't stop crying. And yeah, lastly, was FMG, which was, again, stepping back there. It was it was the first stage I ever stepped on, so it was actually very wholesome and sentimental coming back on that stage 2 years later. And my feedback was, she come back with bigger glutes and slow down your posing, and I can't remember what else, but I think that was what I remember. And yeah, I did all of those things, and I came second, which was awesome to come from 5th 2 years later, then work up to second. And I was so happy with that pack, the look, everything, and just the support. I think so many people obviously saw me when I stepped on that stage 2 years prior. Coming back, there was just so much support within the FMG community of people going, coming back, and that was just super special. So yeah, again, another really great highlight.
Yeah, wow. What an incredible season. What do you think it came down to, like making so many improvements between your seasons that you competed in? You obviously went from, like a first time competitor, and then you did something in your off season, which then made you super competitive to come back and get top placings and wins as well in your second season. So what do you think it was that you did in your off season that made those improvements?
Definitely taking the time and giving the sport the respect it deserves. I knew within myself, if I want to come back being competitive, I needed time to let my legs grow. I ideally would have wanted them bigger coming to that first show, but I wanted to get on the stage and have that experience and do the best that I could coming out of those injuries. But I knew the legs, they needed to grow. And it was something that I knew wasn't going to happen in 6 months. It wasn't going to happen in 12 months. So definitely taking the time to grow and really working on imbalances, injuries, addressing them, even going in, having some face-to-face coaching to help like get moving pain-free through my big lifts, and just really addressing all of those things that can be the limiting factors of why you don't place. If you're in pain and you're injured and you've got niggles, your body's going to have a really hard time in being able to grow because it's in a state where it's just not optimal for it. So really addressing those factors and getting people that could help me, working around that with other specialists, and not being afraid to eat and put on some body fat, you know, from my peak bulk at the end to my final weight of show day, it was a 15 kilo difference. And I think by having that time, that's what also allowed me to get in condition. I think if I didn't give myself that time, my body would have been quite resistant to getting in the conditioning that I brought. And purely just really taking on judges' feedback. Like, listen to what they've wrote. They've written it for a reason, and you take that feedback and you purely get a plan in place to work towards that and put it into action. And for a big one, that was my glutes. I don't think I got one piece of feedback from any show that my glutes weren't big enough. Like, my glutes were, I was shocked. Like, we really hammered my glutes in that off season. And I remember as I was losing the body fat, I was like, oh, I really hope my glutes don't drop. You know how you worry, like, is it fat or is it muscle? And yeah, then I started getting striations and I was like, okay, like we actually came through, we pulled through. And I remember comparing photos and I was shocked that we did that in 2 years. So yeah, I think that is the biggest thing that I did that allowed me to come back competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of that advice, and I think it's so, so important to take that time for your off season and apply the feedback like you obviously did. So competing at such a high level across multiple federations must be pretty challenging with all the different rules and posing and everything. How did you adapt each prep and your posing between the shows to ensure that you're actually fitting the criteria and being competitive in each federation?
Yeah, so I always start early out with my posing purely because I know it's not easy. And I remember when I first learned, it took me ages to be able to find my natural flow with it. So every show, I've always kind of started my posing practice about 12 months out. And especially going into 3 different federations, I was like, all right, we've got a bit of learning to do here. And that was definitely a concern. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to go having to learn 2 different poses and maybe on stage doing something that is from a different federation that I shouldn't be doing. But I didn't end up doing that. I definitely was more, as I was heading into the shows, practicing more of my IFBB and NBA posing, which thankfully was the exact same posing. So NBA recently changed their bikini posing criteria to be within alignment of what the IFBB is. So it used to be quarter turns and they changed it to half turns, from a hands up back pose to now a hands down back pose. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. So it was like pretty much just learning 2 routines, except having the difference with IFBB having to do a walk to the rear, which I was very nervous about. I feel like that's the hardest part, like walking slowly, keeping your glutes tight and looking elegant. That's tough. So I really hammered and practiced that a lot. With FMG, because I'd already done it before that style of posing, I was definitely a lot more confident with it. And I don't know, I feel like honestly, I didn't even really go into FMG with a routine. I kind of just practiced and improvised, and whatever felt natural kind of came with it. Like, I had a practice T-walk, but quarter turns, I was just moving and performing. So yeah, I practiced a lot of that, and I didn't want to practice too much FMG because I just didn't want to get myself confused. So I was thankful that FMG was that final show. Yeah, once those other shows are, I was just like FMG, hammering FMG, and I would just, chuck some tunes on, a bit of Ariana Grande, and I just free flow and have a play and film myself. And it was mostly just ensuring, like, okay, I got to make sure I have this perfect routine, because at the end of the day, it's actually not. The judges don't know your routine. They don't know what you're doing. They don't know if you didn't hit the right pose and you went to something else. So you just kind of roll with it. So for me, it was always about ensuring a hip, like popping your glute right, hinging enough into your hips, turning your shoulders where they should be. It's like actually feeling how to showcase your best physique, and then just kind of letting that flow and improvisation come from there. But yeah, each show, looking outside the pose a bit more the physique, we aim to come in leaner each show And we did, except when we came into FMG, I think we noticed that I was looking very lean, and FMG, it's a very full look, especially bikini. It's quite a full look. It's not, I guess, as dry and like tight. So I was very lean, and we tried to give me so many carbs coming into that show to fill me up, which we tried our best. I definitely pulled up a little bit fuller, but part of my feedback actually was from FMG's, your conditioning was perfect. We just want you a bit more fuller in the legs. So here I am taking some time off and doing that.
Yeah, so what's the goal now? Obviously, your last show was in FMG, you came second. Are you coming back to compete again in FMG?
Yeah, so I had to have a massive thing that I was like, where do I want to go from here? Do I want to push to try and make IFBB? Do I want to go FMG? And I've spoken to a lot of people, and everyone's like, Amanda, you're an FMG girl through and through. They're like, look at you, like, look at you on the stage. I was like, yeah, it was fun though. Like, I loved all of it. And look, I'll never say never. Who knows? Maybe next season, if I feel like spending the money, I'll go all three again. But I definitely do next season. I want to do another NBA Pro show, defend the title. You know, they are such like a really fun federation, and I definitely want to come back to FMG and next time leave as a pro, hopefully. And I'm not leaving any risk on the table for this. I'm not taking a year off and going. I had a big thing to myself, and I sat with myself because I know how important this goal is to me. And nothing would kill me more if I came back and didn't take long enough off and got second again. I would just eat at me. It's too long of a process to let that happen, knowing if you just took a bit longer, it could have been yours. So I know if I take 2 years off, and I come back and hey, if I play second, at least I know I took 2 years off. Like, at least I know I gave it my all. And I do have a lot of girls competing. Not a lot. I'm not like got like 20 right there. I got a few girls competing this year and a few more competing next year. And I really want to ensure that it is their year. It is their show day. It's like special because I know how special it is for me. So I want to give my all to them, and I'll put myself, I'll just keep growing. I'll come back most likely 2027 season A. That's what I'm tipping. Don't hold me to it, but that's what I'm tipping. And yeah, then it will be my day. But for now, I want to give these girls that I've got the best show day experience.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm so excited to see, what you do in your off season when you come back, hopefully in 2027, see what happens then. That's very exciting. So what's something that bodybuilding has helped with or taught you outside of the gym?
A lot. It's taught me a lot. I say every prep I've ever been through, it really just changes your life in the sense showing you what you are so capable of. It really does allow you to build your mindset and build your resilience and mental toughness. I thought I was tough my first prep. Coming to my second prep, I was like, whew, I'm really tough. Like, this prep, I had to dig way harder than that second one. And yeah, for me, it's taught me structure. It's taught me a sense of control. You're so capable of whatever you put your mind to. It's taught me the beauty of delayed gratification and patience. I find myself to be a very impatient person. So bodybuilding for me, you got to be patient. You got to play the long game and be process driven, not outcome driven. The outcome's beautiful, but I think finding the beauty in the process that you need to bring every single day, that has been the biggest thing. And also, how do you show up in your day-to-day life whilst dealing with the extremities and stress that comes with a comp prep? I think that really builds you as a person. Like, if no one had to work or had any other responsibilities, could just do prep would be a piece of cake. It's the showing up and for other people and your responsibilities and being a good partner and, a good friend and a good coach and a good role model whilst you're tired as fuck and needing to piss 30 times a day. Like, you just have to, show up for yourself. And for me, that always kind of comes back to a champion mentality, a champion mindset. How does a champion carry themselves? Do they just sit there and complain, or are they, utilizing the suffering that they're enduring right now, knowing that it's building them and making them a better person, so that when they do make it to the finish line, they can be so proud of themselves and really indulge within that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's so much growth in the sport, like mentally, not only physically, that comes from pushing yourself through a prep and, like you said, building that, delayed gratification and resilience. It's so, so powerful. Yeah, I love that. Love that about the sport.
It's the biggest teacher, man. I think you'd be the same. It's probably taught, what has it taught you?
Yeah, I think the same. The patience and the mental resilience. Like, at the start of my journey, it was all about trying to get quick fixes and trying to do something as fast as possible. But when you learn that delayed gratification and, you put in the work, these small habits over such a long period of time, and then you get these massive results and eventually, start being competitive on stage, it's just such a huge reward. And it just applies to so many other areas of life as well.
Yeah, it's good character building, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you could go back to the beginning of your fitness journey, what advice would you give to yourself?
Don't be afraid to eat. Don't be afraid to push hard. Don't be afraid to make noises in the gym, and who gives a fuck who's looking at you. Your first few years are your most anabolic years. It's when you're most sensitive to the stimulus. Don't hold out on trying to diet or what other people are looking like on social media. Build your best self. Take advantage of those first few years and don't worry about anyone else. I think it's so important. We can sometimes get caught up seeing what other people are doing, but not realizing, where you are within your journey. One thing I always say to a lot of my beginner clients when they first start training with me is you need to allow yourself to be a beginner. I'm worried about what I'm going to look like in the gym, or I'm scared to go ask this person to do equipment. No. You need to allow yourself to be a beginner and put yourself in that uncomfortable situation. So I would say keep leaning into more discomfort and thrive within it, enjoy the journey. But yeah, I'd say the biggest thing as well is having self-belief and what you're capable of. When I was younger, I don't think I realized that I'm capable of what I'm doing now. I always wanted it. Trust me, I always wanted it, but I didn't think I was capable. I think there was a lot of self-doubt and things that I had endured within my life that maybe had hurt my confidence or, maybe feel like I wasn't worthy. And I think just knowing you are worthy and keep working at the things that are important to you so you can keep building upon your confidence to have that evidence to back you to be where you want to be.
Yeah, I love that. I think that self-belief is such a big thing. And at the start of your journey, that's why you need, to invest in a good coach, because if you have someone else that can believe in you and you just trust them, then you can kind of, go through the process and build self-belief in that process of actually, starting to achieve the results. But at the start, when you're not achieving those results yet, it's so hard. So that's where you need someone else who can believe in you, which is, a coach. Speaking of coaching as well, you're obviously a coach. Can you tell me a bit more about your business and kind of how you manage that with the demands of prep too?
Yeah, so my business is Amanda Jane Fitness. I have had my baby for almost 5 years now, and it was always just kind of built off wanting to show women what they're capable of and to actually truly empower them. And I guess my slogan for it is educate, empower, evolve, especially in that order, because for me, within my own journey, I knew once I started to learn more and became more educated, this empowered me to make more decisions and know the why and why I'm doing things, which then allowed me to evolve and step into my best self. So for me, that is the biggest thing, that when I have girls, I want to help educate them. I want to help allow that education and experience of myself and giving them showing them that if I'm confident in you, you can be confident in yourself too. The world is your oyster. So many people don't realize that just through a few simple decisions in their life or flicking mindset, you can change the whole trajectory. Can't say that word, it's too big, of your life, right? So that is the sole thing for me. And I find now, amazing, I'm attracting a lot of bodybuilding clients, which is great. I love this sport. But outside the bodybuilding, I'm attracting a lot of girls that were once me, which I find really special, because for me, and a big thing I always get when people step into my little PT studio or, my community, it's so welcoming. It's so welcoming, it's so warm, and there's no judgment, there's no egos, there's no alphaness. Like, it's a place for you to better yourself. And I just want more women to be able to feel the way I feel, really. Like, I feel so empowered, I feel so confident. And for me, the biggest thing was stepping into the gym when I was 16. And during that time, I was not in a good place mentally. My home environment, my mindset, I was not in a great place. And the gym over time, that's what changed my life for me. So that's where, I guess a lot of where my business and that comes from. In regards to juggling my business with prep, it's a weird thing. And I don't know if you can resonate with this, but obviously in prep, you can't eat as much food, right? So there's a lot of gaps. You're trying to fill the gaps. And I feel like every competitor goes through, what's the word I'm looking for, that phase where you're so productive phase, like you're overproductive. You are just going, you are on with business, you are on with everything. So it was a weird thing. Like, I found maybe not towards the very end, like I wouldn't say I was like up, I was like, okay, now I'm holding on my throat. But there was like around the maybe, I don't know, 8 to 12 week out mark, maybe even up to 6, my business was flourishing. I was working so much on my business, doing X, Y, and Z, on calls, making ebooks, and just filling all the gaps. Like, I'd take my laptop with me to the gym, headphones on, and I'm just smashing out steps or doing da 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 da. So it actually like flourished a lot. And I think any spare time I would just doing cardio steps, I'd just bring my laptop out and I'd be working. But in regards to managing business, obviously being a coach, it's a lot on the phone and I've got messages coming through left, right, and center. So it did become a point where I was feeling very overstimulated. Every time I get a message or Instagram notification, like, oh, like just constantly on, like my alertness. So what I found I needed to do was actually have periods where I would turn my phone just on do not disturb. So that way I could actually not be overstimulated. And when I'm ready to turn on, be stimulated, I could, and I'd be way more productive and higher quality and allow me to just show up the best way I could. So I think if you are a competitor currently and you're going through this, make sure you take time. Like for me, I wake up, I actually do it now, and I did it through my prep. When I wake up in the morning, I don't touch my phone. I wake up like 4 a.m. I go to the gym straight away. I do what I got to do. I'm not even looking at Instagram. So that way my mind is clear. I can do the hardest thing of the day. And then when I'm ready, cool, I've done me now, clocking on, here we go, let's do this now. So for me, that was a really big thing in managing that. But I don't know, in prep, I was on this weird ass high, man. I was loving business. I was just like, it was just, I don't know, it was a whole lot.
Yeah, I get that. You definitely go through that kind of productive stage where everything's just on. But I also can relate to being, really overstimulated by messages and emails and everything coming through on your phone. I think maybe on prep when your cortisol's a bit higher anyways, and you're kind of a bit more alert to everything, that those little things, like all the messages coming through, is really overstimulating. So I do the same as you, like putting your phone on do not disturb and leaving it on do not disturb for the first hour or two in the morning if you can is super powerful. And then like having intentional time blocks for when you're actually looking at messages and notifications and things. Like I had a point in time where I just had all my Instagram notifications turned off, and I would only check them like when I actually went into the app or when I went in to check the messages, because it's so overstimulating when you have them coming through 24/7 before you go to sleep, when you wake up, like not being able to focus on your own things. And I think focus, especially like when you're training and things, makes such a big difference, having your phone on do not disturb and focusing solely on training.
Yeah, you really want to lock in, and especially with training, it's like you don't want any distractions. Like you want, like all your energy is going into that. It's like wasting brain power and energy, just like notifications. It's probably like the most underrated tool to allow you to continue showing up in your prep 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of social media as well, have you ever had any criticism or negative feedback on social media, and how did you deal with that?
I wouldn't say I've had a whole heap. I definitely have experienced the odd random comment or troll comment. I guess probably some of the worst is even in my off season. I think I was talking about on my social media don't try and fit into clothes when you were like peak week shredded, like you need to wear clothes that fit you through all your phases, make yourself feel good. And I just had this one middle-aged man comment. He's like, you shouldn't need to get that fat that you can't wear the same clothes like throughout. I was like, bro, I was like, you clearly do not understand bodybuilding, especially when you're trying to push to extreme. And yeah, like if I ever do receive any sort of comments where I'm like, this isn't positive, like, and I try to keep my Instagram very positive and vulnerable, and I just block and delete. I think in my younger years, it would have probably affected me. And I was like, what does this person think or say? I just, nah. But for me, how I show up on social media, it's always true to my core. So if someone is commenting something or, something that is a bit nasty, I just delete and it doesn't affect me at all because I'm like, nah, this is so true to my value and core. You don't even affect me. I care more about what I think of myself than what you think. But I feel like now, even with my own following, it's a really beautiful community. Like the amount of support that I've received throughout my journey and people kind of tagging along and watching the vlogs or watching the YouTube, young girls stepping into the industry, like you've inspired me, I've been able to take it's really beautiful. And I love that, the connection side of things. So I wouldn't say I've experienced too much in that extent, more so maybe from maybe external fit, like long distance family members and things like that. I've heard comments say, oh, have you seen Amanda? Like she looks disgusting or, unwell. And it's just people just don't understand the sport. And I personally don't take it to heart because I'm like, I don't expect you to understand. And I think if you're someone that is stepping into the sport and you've got family and they don't understand, they're like, why aren't you eating? Just you got to understand what you're doing is very abnormal. They don't understand. And yeah, I literally got told by a person in my family, I don't even talk to anymore, but I look disgusting. Like I look like a man, and yeah, good cunt. That's how I want to look. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
That can be hard, I think, when people don't understand it. But like, how did you build that confidence to be so confident in yourself that you don't care what other people say, and also just show up on social media so authentically?
yeah, I think at the start, I definitely found it hard. I knew in my early years of my bodybuilding and, being a coach from the age of 18, I always wanted to make an impact and share so many of my thoughts and my story and my insight. But there was just always this maybe something in the back of my mind, not feeling worthy enough, who would listen to me. And also a big part, and it's crazy even now talking on podcasts, I would still say maybe now, but I actually just don't give a fuck. Instead, I call myself out and I express it and make everyone have a laugh at it with me. I really struggle to pronounce big words. And
Mm.
even when I first started, I used to say a lot when I would talk too. So talking online, talking on social media, I'm like, oh, like this is embarrassing. People are gonna think that I don't know what I'm talking about, or I can't even say a certain word. I just get really tongue tied, and I have ever since I was a kid. So for me, it was like overcoming little things like that. But then I got to a point where I was like, younger me would benefit from someone like me now showing up, being real, showing my story. And I would probably, just someone to confide in that's walked the journey that I'm currently am, or the life that I am, the journey I am wanting to walk. And for me, it's always been about inspiring and helping other people because I know what younger me needed back then. So I think for me, it was like going back to my core value. And then when I did actually decide to step out of my comfort zone, start showing more of myself on social media, start documenting my journey, start sharing some very vulnerable moments of my life with people on social media, the amount of positive feedback that came from it, the connection of people that found a lot of benefit and, were so thankful. I was like, yeah, this is what I want. Like, I want to create impact on other people's lives because I know where I once was and I know where I once felt. And if I can use that and harness that to help other people, absolutely go for it. In regards to like building the confidence, for me, I think confidence comes from having evidence to back yourself that you've shown up and done the things that you said you would do. People that aren't confident, it's because they haven't done the work to be confident. You keep, every time you're in an uncomfortable situation, you steer away from it. Every time there's a challenge, you steer away from it. If you actually lean into it, that's what's going to help you build your confidence and allow you to become better. Like my first ever podcast episode, I listened to it now and I'm like, oh my God, Amanda, stop fucking interrupting people when they're talking. But I got better at it, and it's added to my confidence now. When I do talk on podcasts, I know the things that I've wanted to work on, and that's how I became better. I gave myself a chance to become better, and that's even with the gym. If I look back at videos of me when I was training when I was 16, 18, oh my God, fucking pissing myself, right? But I had to continue showing up that person, keep creating this evidence to back myself so I could become confident in the gym. And it just keeps leading to another. It's just creating that evidence for yourself. But you can, if you truly do want to be confident, you really got to put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. That's always been my motto. And I think that's like with bodybuilding, it's so uncomfortable. And I'm like, yeah, let me lean into it. And I think with bodybuilding, the reason why I felt so confident in doing so well in it is because ever since a young age, I'd been put in uncomfortable environments, had to grow up very quickly. And as maybe sad as it is, reliving some of those moments and going, holy fuck, I got through that. This is fucking nothing. You're so capable. So I would just say, yeah, in terms of building confidence, it's enduring the discomfort, enduring the hardship. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much. And do you have any final pieces of advice for our listeners before we wrap this up?
Any final pieces of advice? Don't listen to that inner voice in your head. If you have if you want to do something, a goal that you're working towards, if you don't have anything to back you into why you should do it, it's just that fear of maybe failing or not being good, absolutely do it. Because even if you do fail, at least you know you tried, and at least you're probably going to take and learn something from it. I've failed at many things in my life, and I'm okay with that. At least I know I tried. So I would always just say, if you feel that fear, you feel that resistance, and when you are wanting to work towards a goal, fucking lean into it. And every time when I was in prep and I could feel my body like really feeling it, and I was starting to feel resistant and second guess everything because my brain was trying to reserve energy, I just like lean into it. Lean into this right now. And that's always just kind of been my motto now, just thrive in chaos. Really need to get it tattooed on me. I've always keep saying it. I've got relentless tattooed on my thigh. I got that tattooed a few days after my very first ever bodybuilding show, because that was like the word I always kind of went back to. But thrive in chaos, I think that needs a space on me too.
Yeah, I like that too. Have you read the book Relentless?
No.
So good. It's by Tim Grover. He was like a coach for all these top basketballers and stuff. And he's got two books, Relentless and Winning, and they're both like really good. They're both about like that winning mindset, kind of relentless mindset, which is, yeah, so good. I love reading them during prep. So little sidebar, but highly recommend.
Oh, dude, that sounds so up my alley. I'm going to look into that after this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can the listeners find you online if they want to follow the rest of your journey or inquire about coaching?
Sure. So my personal on Instagram is amandajane.pt. If you guys watch this and maybe want to have a discussion about some of the things we spoke about, I'm totally up for it. I love connecting with other youngins coming into this sport and, chatting about it. I love it. And if you're interested in coaching, amandajane.fitness is where you can find all my coaching and the girls I work with. If you want posing coaching, I work under Nat Kitney. We're based in Mentone. We do online and face-to-face. And if you want more raw type content into my journey, I do have my YouTube, Amanda Jane, and I also do have my podcast, Amanda Jane's Barbie Bodybuilding Podcast.
Amazing. I will link all of those down below so that people can find you easily. Thank you so much for coming on. That was incredible.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I loved this discussion. Absolutely amazing.
And thank you to our listeners as well. If you could take a moment to rate this podcast on whatever you're listening to it on, follow and share your stories as well and tag us. Let us know what you learned or what you're doing while we're listening. We'd love to hear it. Thank you so much.